I've been waiting for this. RJ did a little patented Choppy research project on just how good this Cowboys defense is. Like, what category can we put them in? Very good, great, special, potential to be all-time. Here are some of the Bobby Belt surface numbers. Cowboys have allowed fewer than 20 points in 5 straight games, longest such streak for the team since 2009. Micah has 6 career games with at least 2 sacks. That's the 4th most in a player's first 2 years in history. Aldon Smith holds the record with that San Francisco start, former Cowboy. First time since 74 that they've won a game on the road in which they threw for fewer than 80 net passing yards and no passing touchdowns. Has not happened since 1974. They've allowed 72 points, the fewest they've allowed in the first 5 games of a season since 1980. 8-1 in their last 9 without Dak. Have only allowed 1 rushing touchdown through the first 5 games. So that's what they're doing this season. And RJ, you line them up against some other all-time great defenses?
Yes, I did. And I went and looked at other defenses from historically. So how would they fare? How would the Cowboys fare against the 2000 Baltimore Ravens?
Which is probably the best defense I've ever seen. I grew up right there. I couldn't stand the Ravens because they were winning these games. I'm like you in a lot of other sports. You don't like when fluky things happen. You don't like trick plays. You don't like when it's just not traditional sports being played. You tend to revolt against that. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was with the Ravens. I'm like, they're scoring 13 points. This is BS. They're always getting a touchdown return. They're always getting a special teams block. They're always having some type of crazy highlight reel play, and it drove me nuts. And it came to be proven they were an all-time great unit. I think Sean Payton said that was the second best defense the other day on Fox. He said that's the second best defense he's ever seen behind the 85 Bears.
Yeah, so it was fantastic. They allowed fewer than 300 total yards in a game 11 straight times that year.
Fewer than 300 yards in a game 11 straight times?
Yeah. The Cowboys have allowed over 300 yards in a game in 3 of the first 5.
Okay, let me interrupt this real quick. How do we adjust?
It's tough.
For eras.
It's tough to do. The Ravens were in an era where it was still, it wasn't quite pass heavy yet. Right. They were starting to throw the ball more, obviously, but it wasn't to what it is now. So do keep that in mind. The 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
A top 5 defense that I've ever seen. Monty Kiffin, Warren Sapp.
Yeah. They allowed over 300 yards of offense 4 times the entire season. And again, we've done that 3. But again, different era. Different era of football. The Legion of Boom. Now, this is interesting because what year do you go when it comes to the Legion of Boom? Do you go like 2012 where they kind of got rolling? Do you go 2013 when they, first really burst on the scene and won the Super Bowl? Or do you do 2014 where you could argue that they had slightly worse of a defense but still made the Super Bowl? Like, I would think you would go with their Super Bowl season. That's just me.
Okay.
All right. But in that year, they allowed, and we're starting to get closer to where the Cowboys are. They allowed over 300 yards of offense 7 times. And 2 of those games, they allowed over 200 yards rushing. Denver, a couple of years later, 2015, they did it in 8 games, and in all 3 postseason wins, they allowed over 300 yards of offense.
Oh, they did allow?
They allowed over 300 in all 3 postseason wins. That was surprising to me. But, 300 is kind of an arbitrary number. Like, what does that really mean? It's just 3. I just threw that out there. Well, let's go with an efficiency stat that I love. It's called DVOA. It's for Football Outsiders. It's basically your value above average. So on defense, you have a percentage. And offense, you have a percentage too. One's negative, one's positive. Defense is negative. But I'll just throw everything on the positive there. In 2015, the Broncos were first in this category in the NFL. They were 25% above league average. Okay, 25% above league average. It's fantastic. The Seahawks In 2013, were third in that stat, above league average. I'm sorry. They were first in that stat at 25% above league average. They were third in rush that year. Okay, so they were first as well. Same number, 25%. In 2002, Tampa Bay was first, 31% better than league average. And the Ravens in 2000 were second, 25%. Where the Cowboys currently sitting in this number, they're very good. They're not first. They are sixth in this category, which is still good. 19% better than league average. Number one is San Francisco at 26.5%. So they're a little bit down in that, but you're in the top six. Like, no one's freaking out. I went and looked at another one. I compared this to the 2013 Seahawks yards per play. How many yards per play do you allow? The Cowboys allow 4.7 yards per play. That's tremendous. They only average 5.1 on offense, which is not great. It's bottom third. But they are in the top five in yards per play on defense. They are number 5. Seattle in 2013 was number 1 at 4.6, which is about the same. And it's a much more passing league. So this defense, it doesn't compare to the Ravens, and it doesn't compare to Tampa, but it's still very, very good.
Is it great?
Okay, so are we using great as the top, or is elite the top? Or special?
Special to me is 2000 Ravens. Special to me is 85 Bears.
Okay.
Then great. I mean, I might throw the Bucs in that. Actually, let's rank them. Let's get old school in here a little bit on the TruckWreck.com text line. The best defenses you've seen in order.
Well, I mean, it's tough to say anything but the 85 Bears. I never saw them.
Yeah.
You know, I was 6 years old when they were playing.
I'm gonna put the Ravens first.
I would put the Ravens first.
I would probably put the Bucs second.
Yep, and I would probably put Seattle.
Yes, then
Denver. And I think that's your. Well, you know, we're going to completely ignore the Pats defense from the early Belichick days with early Brady days.
Steelers under Cowher.
I mean, they were very good. Yeah, they were a tremendous defense.
So I like that you did the numbers aspect. So the numbers, just to summarize, say what?
Well, the numbers again because of the era difference. It's hard to compare them to from a strict yard standpoint.
Yeah.
But from how much better they are than league average, they don't really compare to the other ones.
So that's the numbers. I like to go the other way with the fan chugging beers at happy hour, right? We're at happy hour today. And when you talk about an all-time great unit, you could say RJ Choppy. But when you're talking about sports teams, right, you can always give a characteristic or something that defined them. You could not run on the Ravens. Period. Teams scored 9.4 against them in 20 games that year. 9.5 points. And you could not run. I remember them taking Eddie George's soul. That's what I remember. The Buccaneers, they would run picks back to the house. They had like 3 during that run that year. And it was hard to run against them as well. Seattle, right? Legion of Boom, secondary. The Broncos tormented these AFC playoff quarterbacks with Von Miller coming around the edge. What is it about? What's the defining characteristic and identity of this Dallas Cowboys defense? Is it the pass rush?
It's the pass rush. And I think that's why it's most closely compared to the Broncos one. The Broncos had an elite pass rush. They could get home in 4 guys. They had a singular dude.
Oh, we're going to leave out the Jets defenses as well. That got them to the AFC title games with Sanchez and Revis.
Man, I'll tell you this, and I'll go back and I'll do the Jets defense real quick because that you could. And I basically went just teams that won the Super Bowl. But you can make a strong case, and people have. Analytically, they think the Jets' 09 defense was the best that they've ever seen.
Wow. That was Rex.
That was Rex. Because they had an ability to get home in 4, and they had elite coverage. They had Antonio Cromartie and prime Darrelle Revis, and they had really good guys at safety. But their efficiency was right on par with the Ravens and with the Legion of Boom. They were 26% better than league average, and nobody was within 10 percentage points of them that year. So that was a tremendous defense, and they played the 8th toughest schedule. So that was fantastic. That was a phenomenal defense that they had in 2009. that carried them to the AFC Championship game. I don't know that they're on this level because they don't have Revis.
Right.
I think the one thing that this team has...
Well, they have Anthony Brown, according to you.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. One thing this team has is their defense doesn't have any holes that I could think of. They've got an elite pass rush, and their secondary is tremendous. You can't cover both run and pass. But when you've got a great defensive line and you've got great coverage, you can fake it. And they have the ability to do that.